Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 9th of February. We are holding a special meeting of the Kennebunkport Select Board. This meeting, just to introduce a little bit of it. So first I will call this meeting to order. And now let's pledge our allegiance to the nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I just want to say just a quick word of why we are having this meeting today. This is in response to a request for public input by the state to the LD 1829 and LD 2173 legislation. That hearing closes tomorrow, and therefore we did not have time to be able to do this discussion during the normal schedule of our select board, and therefore we have this meeting today. So we will enter into that. I wonder, Galen, if you wanted to first just update us a little bit on current conditions of things?
Absolutely. Good day, Select Board. Yes, so the Growth Planning Committee had a robust discussion about the Fix-It Bill, which is LD 2173. This is the Fix-It Bill for LD 1829 that was passed earlier last legislative session. And so this Fix-It Bill is intending to clarify some things that were missing in LD 1829. And so I'll go over a few of those topics for you and for the audience. That way, you have a good understanding of how this is going to impact Kennebunkport. And then certainly I can answer any questions that you have at the end, if that works.
Thank you.
Okay. So first section is dealing with the definition. There's a new definition for a common scheme development. And so it's unclear what this actually is referring to. It might be referring to subdivisions. It's something that I think needs to be brought up at the public hearing process. But basically what this definition allows for is that 35% of the growth permits in a growth area can be allocated for those common schemes in a year. That's what it refers to later in the legislation. And so that needs to be clarified on what that actually means. The growth permits, as you know, Kennebunkport has 40 growth permits per year. We allocate them on a 50, 30, 20 basis, depending on what growth area you're in. What this change says is they're getting rid of affordable housing needing growth permits. Before we used to have to save 10% of our growth permits for affordable housing. That's gone and done away with. Instead, there is a new cap on how many growth permits are issued per calendar year. Before it was 110%, this bill will change it to 130%. So that is quite a difference, and it's also over a 5-year period instead of before it was a 10-year period that you would look back and see what your average growth permit issuance was to determine what that limit is. They also clarified in the height requirements. So there was that 14-foot height requirement that could be used for affordable housing. They put a cap there at 55 feet. And I think that was for more urban areas where they already are probably near that exceedance level. And so they clarified the bill for more urban areas that you cannot exceed that 55-foot cap. They also did some clarification on the density for Kennebunkport. And again, it's the 4 dwellings on a lot that's in the growth area and on public water and sewer. That limit includes now accessory dwelling units, so it's 4 in total. It's not 4 plus what about ADUs? How's that play into it? So that was clarified with this legislation. And then they also clarified that outside of in the growth area, but outside of public water and sewer utilities, that it would still follow the subsurface wastewater rules. So that's 20,000 square feet. The other thing that make mention is that this will be a big change for the town. The legislation did exempt from subdivision review for multifamilies that are multiple units in a structure. That has now changed for also site plan review process. So there's always two buckets here for housing projects. One, you have a site plan review. That's for the use itself. Conditional use approvals require site plan review. And then if you're dividing a lot, or what the current law was, is multiple units on a property, you would also trigger a subdivision review. So the subdivision one went away, and now with this clarifying language, they're also removing the site plan review process from multiple housing projects, so multiple structures on a property.
What to say it in different words, what does that mean? What is the potential impact by that?
Yeah, so, good question. So what would normally happen is they would go to the planning board, there'd be a public hearing process, abutters would be notified, and input would be given, and then before final approval. With this change, there could be some projects in Kennebunkport that would be administratively approved, meaning that the code officer would just receive the building permit application, issue it, and they would just start building.
Does it say you have to do that, or we would have the right to do that?
It
In other words,
does-
can we still insist on the old way of doing it, or does it prevent that?
I think it's worth having a conversation with the state on that. I think that we would still be able to have site plan review if there was a road that was three or more dwellings on the property, they would still go through site plan review. But for an actual property that maybe the road already conforms with the town standards, we wouldn't be able to make them go through the planning board process. That's my understanding.
You're clear on that, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and it's only five, if I remember correctly, 5 dwellings in a 5-year period. So they can do basically every 5 years, similar to what currently happens to avoid subdivision. People take a parcel, and you have to wait 5 years till you can split another parcel off your land. There's that 5-year caveat.
So say that again, that last part?
For subdivisions?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the current law says that with subdivisions, you can subdivide one parcel off your parent parcel every 5 years without triggering subdivision.
How big is that parcel, though? I mean,
It depends on your lot size and, yeah.
But that would be a 5, in this case, if it was in this, it would be the 5,000 square feet, and they could
Yep.
put 4 units on it.
Yes,
But that's it, they'd have to wait 5 years to get
do another
another
one.
5,000 and put 4 units on
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
The other thing that changed from a town perspective for Kennebunkport is the law changed that allowed ADUs, not just for single families, that's what the current law is, but now it also applies to 2-family and multifamily buildings. So if you have a duplex or you have a multiplex in Kennebunkport, you can now also ask for an ADU on your property. So that's a change from what we currently have on the books. So those are the big changes. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Galen, just a quick question. You said we go from 110 to 130% based on, and look, a 5-year look back versus a 10-year look back?
Yep.
And we do 40 permits a year
Yes.
right now?
So what happens is,
What would that number become if that went through for us?
I'd
do you
have
have
to,
that?
yeah, I'd have to pull the numbers to
But
take
it
a
ought
look.
to
It wouldn't be a
let's-
tremendous increase, would it?
So what happens is right now, what I can tell you for the last 10 years, your average was about 24. And so with 110%, you weren't at the 40, so we just go to 40. That's what the ordinance says, is when we are lower than what the threshold is needed, you would just hit the 40 mark, yeah.
So if it's 24 for the last 30 would be additional, so we still would still be at 40.
Right.
That's if you went 10 years, but the last
But it-
5
Right,
5
years,
years, I'd have to go-
we've had more,
I'd
so.
have to go look at the
But it's
counts,
not gonna
yeah.
explode it.
But it's not.
So what you're saying is,
Right.
it's gonna, it can't go to 60. I mean, we haven't had that many, right? So
No.
what's the max? Let's say we were 40 for 5 years. Our average is 40, then it'd be 130 of 40. 30% of 40, help me out, is
It would
probably,
be,
12.
12.
Am I doing that right? 12 more?
yeah,
yeah.
about 52.
Yep,
So we'd be at 52
We'd be at
instead of
52.
40.
yep,
Got it. It'll be something less than 52.
right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's the minimum.
that's the
That's if we were at
That's-
40 right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we could at that, to change the ordinance to make that math work, to cap it at a lower number, right?
no.
No,
that's
not
what we
not the
can't do.
percentage, not
We
the
have to be-
percentage, but we could say, hey, we need an addition. Right now, we actually don't need 40 by the math.
Right.
We could reduce our current.
We could reduce our cap.
It's
if we
not a
wanted
huge
to.
increase.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
we can reduce our cap, we can make it lower?
So when was the last time we had 40?
I thought we had, this was saying you can't go below that. Isn't that
We
what
have
it's
to
saying?
stay at the 110% number. But Kennebunkport has always said if you're not meeting that, you can just go to 40. That's what we did in our ordinance.
We actually allow more than
We
we are
allow more than
required
what-
by town ordinance.
Got
We
that.
could reduce that.
But if this comes up to be 52 by the math, we can't now go back down to 40.
we
It says we have
Yeah.
to be 52. All right, I just want to be clear on that. All
Yeah, we
right,
can't go
good.
back,
So-
yes.
So
Right.
when was the last time we were at 40?
Uh,
Or
we-
have we ever been at 40?
I think you had it back in, was it 09, 2010? You had most of the growth permits in the growth area, which was surprised me too. I think it was before the height of that. I remember seeing that.
So I'm just saying, you could tell us what the average was for the last 5 years, and we could multiply, do 110%, and we can do 130% and know exactly what the numbers were.
Yeah.
Right, it's going to be less than 52.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but he's saying they're gonna go off 40.
No,
Even if we
No.
don't, no?
No.
No,
Okay, so they're gonna go off the actual number.
whatever your building, whatever your
I
growth
think,
permits
I
are.
think, Galen, you've got to clarify, there's our growth cap, and then we're talking about the growth area. And so we're talking about the building permits within the growth area, correct?
No, so
No.
before, with LD 1829, they removed there was no cap placed in the growth area under 1829. This language fixes it that says, no, you still need growth permits in the growth area, but your cap, the level for the total growth permits, is at that 130% over the last 5-year average.
Right, but the 5-year average of the growth area permits,
It's the whole entire
or
town.
all
whole
the
town.
growth
Yep,
permits?
all the
But
growth permits.
but that cap is going to be applied to the growth area or to the whole town?
To the whole town. We can still control growth in your transition
I think
and
that's
your
where
rural.
Alan is getting,
Yeah,
because we're hearing 24, 26, we're hearing 40,
Yeah.
So there is, we are maxing out on growth permits every year, but not in the growth area.
Correct, not in the growth area.
okay, gotcha.
Because rural areas are where the land is
Taking the-
cheaper, and so they have to wait till December, and then they're able to get those other growth permits from the growth area. So people are using the growth permits, it's just where they're using them.
Okay, thank you.
So we can set the cap in the growth area as long as we make up the difference in the other non-growth or interim growth or
Yes. so the-
intermediate growth,
the-
whatever we
The
call
only
it.
requirement in your comprehensive plan is that the majority of your growth has to be taking place in your growth area. So the highest percentage of growth permits issued has to go to your growth area, so 50%,
Right.
which is what we have. 50% of our growth permits are issued for the growth area. People don't always use them, but they're available. There's 50% of them are issued in the growth area.
And so if we ended up with a cap of 50, then 25 of them would be, or
Yep.
26
Yep,
would
25.
be
Yep,
have to be used
in the
there.
growth area.
And could not be taken and used somewhere else?
At the end of the year, December, though, we won't issue them like we do now.
No, so you can never, you can't go, I think what you're asking is, you mean in the rural area if we had,
So, as you said before, is that we have the 20 permits right now for growth area, and
Yeah.
then by December, if they're not issued, then then at that time, we release those permits of the 40 that were for the 20 of the growth area that weren't used to go to rural.
no.
No,
So you can't go backwards, you can always go forward. So how I'll explain this is rural, transition, and then you have the growth area. Growth area is the more intensive growth area, transition's in the middle, and then the little one is rural. You can always take your growth and move it towards where it's supposed to be more concentrated,
okay.
but you can't go growth area out to the other areas of town, to the rural and the transition.
Okay,
Which makes
Yeah.
sense. We don't have services out
Correct.
there. I mean, that's, I mean,
Okay.
just
Good.
snowball.
Yeah,
all right.
Wow, good stuff.
okay. Let
Thank
me
you,
know if you have
sir.
any additional questions.
There might be some.
oh, there probably will, don't worry.
Okay, so,
Stand
do you
by.
want me to go?
Please.
Okay, so I just wanted to just briefly take a few minutes and go through some of the comments that were made at the GPC meeting and a motion that the GPC made at our last meeting after Galen had gone through the Fix-It bill, and what was or wasn't perceived fixed in the 1829. And then I want to run through with you guys, I handed out to you a proposed memo that we would send, if we so choose, to the state for this hearing on the Fix-It bill. So just a couple points that were discussed in both previous board meetings when Galen did presentations to us, and also in the Growth Planning Committee meeting. So 1829 goal is to create affordable workforce housing. The thought is within these bills it won't be achieved in our town. However, our growth areas will become unmanageable density of expensive homes. So those were previous comments that have been made in our GPC meetings. The affordable workforce housing success requires urban amenities. Our infrastructure layout and services don't provide these. We talked through about seasonal and tourist expansion, which actually happens in our growth area of our town. What has been brought up a number of times in the GPC meetings and the Growth Planning Committee meetings is that we have a comprehensive plan that was approved by the residents in the state and provides guide rails for our growth. The state changing land use law should not invalidate all or parts of our comprehensive plan. That was, you'll see in the motion below that comes forward again. And then also it was discussed about, when we did the comprehensive plan at that time, there was a feeling of what growth area was. And there was a statement made in one of our GPC meetings where if we had known now what the state is intending for the growth area, that we may not have defined this area as the growth area or all of it as the growth area. So the GPC at the last meeting voted unanimously on a motion, and I'll just paraphrase it right now. They were proposing, knowing that this hearing is coming, they were proposing to the legislator that that a paragraph be added to the LD 2173 stating that the town with a valid comprehensive plan approved by both the state and their voters shall be allowed to delay the implementation of these rules until the end date, the renewal date of our comprehensive plan. So they voted unanimously about that. There was also talk previously at GPC meetings about, and actually when our representative was here, about changing in the Fix-It bill to allow the density only to be applied for affordable workforce housing. So taking all that into consideration, thinking that through, and also thinking about the motion that the GPC made, what I'm going to read to you sort of takes that into account, but it takes it a step further, because when the comprehensive plan comes up for renewal, we are still who we are. And so when I read the proposed memo to the state, I think you'll see where I'm headed with this, and then I look forward to your feedback. So I propose the following to be sent to our state legislative for the hearing for LD 2173 Fix-It bill. It states the following: in response to the legislator's request for public hearing input on the issue of LD 1829, LD 2173, the Select Board of Kennebunkport, Maine, representing the residents, wish to convey the following. Our town has implemented growth and expansions based on our land use ordinance, which are guided by our comprehensive plan, which has been approved by our residents and the state. This allows us to plan and address growth in concert with residential, business, tourist, land, and coastal preservation. We understand the intent of LD 1829 law and the corresponding LD 2173 Fix-It bill. However, we do not believe the intended goal of advancing the development of affordable workforce housing will be achieved in our town. Kennebunkport is a small coastal town consisting of approximately 3,600 full-time residents, which expands to over 12,000 in the summer season. One of our more challenging goals we face is to maintain a year-round community. We fully recognize that increasing the availability of workforce housing is a critical element in meeting this challenge. Therefore, based on a town-funded 2018 housing study, we developed a nonprofit housing trust, which has been successfully focused on affordable workforce housing development. Given the fact that we are a small coastal tourist town with limited infrastructure It is this purpose-driven solution to housing development that will work best in our community. In our town, to just add more housing without focus on affordability will create more market-rate second homes and move us further into a pure seasonal community. The consequences of this type of density for towns like ours will most likely be devastating and irreversible. Maine is made up of very diverse communities. A one-size-fits-all approach to affordable workforce housing will not work in Kennebunkport. Towns must be able to work and develop housing growth in alignment with their infrastructure, roads, services, and areas where they can and cannot expand. We respectfully ask the committee to add the following to the Fix-It Bill LD 2173, and I quote, "For coastal towns with less than 6,000 full-time residents, LD 1829 will not apply. Rather, those towns' growth will be guided by their land use ordinances. These towns will continue to work on solutions for affordable workforce housing that are suitable for their communities. Respectfully, the Kennebunkport Select Board."
Very good letter. Very good letter.
I'd like to open it up for a discussion with the board. I'm not going to call on each, why don't we add thoughts as the spirit moves?
I would suggest, if you pull it up, the third paragraph where we understand the intent of LD 1829, which is the development of affordable housing, workforce housing, that we understand and we support,
Yes,
should be included.
yes, I like that.
I would also say in the fourth paragraph, this is just, in the fourth paragraph, we've, kind of like the third sentence, we fully recognize that increased availability of workforce housing is a critical element. I'm going to add a few more adjectives: critical, important, and vital element in meeting this challenge.
Getting paid by the word?
I am.
Yeah, that's right, but I
And
underscore.
my only other comment is down at the bottom where we asked them to put it in. I would remove the word coastal towns. Although we are a coastal town, I think that if we remove coastal towns and we left it at 6,000 towns with 6,000 full-time residents, we were addressing needs of other communities also across the state and maybe speaking to their legislators.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you why I put coastal towns in, just so you can get the flavor for it. So the coastal towns was to sort of go back up to, what the statements were about, we have this tourism explosion. Coastal towns by definition are sort of locked by the sea, so expansion is limited. Coastal towns in Maine sort of have these developed small roads. They don't have these big highways leading into them, so this whole density growth and that. So I'm good with however the board wants to go. I just was,
It was just a suggestion, that
Yep.
maybe it would expand it to other legislators from other communities that aren't coastal. Or the other thing would be 6,000 full-time residents, would be a town or a coastal town with 6,000, full-time residents and a state-approved comprehensive plan. May actually also add a little something to it.
Yeah, it puts the comprehensive plan. What's the downside to that?
well, some of the small towns here in Maine don't have the comprehensive plans done yet. So I think that was sort of the thought is, I think in the GPC meetings, we've had discussions, and we know that there are some towns without comprehensive plans completed. So I think to your point, David, we do, so this is a view from our point. So I think we could go either way. We can make, this is specific to us in terms of its coastal towns and the 6,000 residents. We can make it more specific to us to say, and comprehensive plans, or we can go less specific and leave out the comprehensive plan, leave out the coastal towns, and just say 6,000, and that would be a broader net to catch more of the towns in Maine.
It was just a suggestion.
Yeah, but one of the pieces where I see the coastal town coming in, what we have stated, and it was stated up above as well, is that being a coastal town, we have a tourist attraction, and we have people that are willing to spend big bucks on small places to be able to be here. And that's really, bottom line, my concern.
Yeah.
is that we get, towers of luxury condos going up that can merit the price for the small location, and you can put 4 of those on 5,000 square feet.
Yep. No,
And
I
it's
agree.
that kind of an explosion. This is where people want to be, and a builder may find that an economic way to do it. And I personally feel that would be a detriment to our quality of life and who we are.
Yep.
So that's the reason why I kind of like the coastal town piece.
I-
Is it underscores that attractiveness that can make it
The market value,
the market value.
yeah.
Yeah, no, as I said, I understand the
Square foot.
content of the purpose of the letter. I, in general, agree with it. I just want to make sure that we do support affordable workforce housing. But it was just a way of maybe gathering a few more communities to also go along with this. But I can also understand where we're a destination that people do like to come and live in.
Yeah.
So,
With
okay.
my-
I'm fine, whatever the board wants on that.
Well, I think this is a pretty good letter. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
And a lot of thought went into this letter, and I'm good with it either way. If you want to leave coastal towns in, I think that does make sense, but whatever you guys decide to do, this needs to get done and sent to them right away, because this is very important.
Thank you. Joe, how do you feel?
The coastal towns makes it much more limited in scope and specific. And so I don't know, what is the intent that we want to go in there with? Do we want to be very focused and specific, or do we want to cast a broader net, and include Sanford? I don't know
Well,
how many people Sanford
Broader
has,
net
for
makes it
instance.
more, in my opinion, more difficult to actually get in. If we keep this affecting less, it's got a better chance of getting in. If they wish to speak on their behalf, they would come up, but we're talking about Kennebunkport.
Right.
And we're a coastal town, and I think making it more limited might make better chance of getting it accepted.
I'm fine.
That's why I'd leave out the comprehensive plan.
I think it's a great document, and I think we definitely need to go on the record and express the views of the town.
So-
I'm glad we're doing so.
So I would propose that we send this letter with David's,
amended, yes.
as amended with David's comments, excluding the ones about leaving the coastal towns, and that, the actual bolded part the same, but in the other paragraphs again, add David's comments.
So is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second it.
I have a first and second. Any other discussion? Does
anyone out?
I would like to ask, yes, thank you. I would like to ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to weigh in before we vote. Seeing someone rise. He's not smiling.
No.
Alan Evelyn, resident, town of Kennebunkport. So the number of municipalities in Maine is, I have the number here, it's around 480 actual individual municipalities. Of that, the number of communities that are over 6,000 residents are 46. So the other 400 municipalities are under 5,000
How many are
population.
coastal?
Well, I haven't gone through the entire list yet.
Just making a point.
So my question is, in the research that you've done, have you talked to Algonquin or these other coastal towns that may be in that size to get an idea of whether they would support that, because they all have different representatives? And certainly putting coastal in your letter, I think, really drags down the number, takes it from 400 down to maybe 40 or 50.
Maybe more, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think, so to answer your question, I think, to John's point, that's really coastal means exactly the soup that we're into, you know, and really the response at the GPC and past discussions with the board meeting and Galen about, you know, what the probability or potential of not achieving affordable workforce housing with this density growth. So to answer your question, that's the reason for coastal coming in. Coastal will finite it down. Did we go out and talk to other towns? No, not for this. I've been in sort of a bit of a hurry to get this done because the hearing is,
Well, to be honest, this is kind of how I
So-
feel. I wouldn't mind, if Algonquin said they didn't want to do it, that's fine, that's up to them. This
Oh,
is
they'll-
what I feel is
they'll wanna do
important
it,
to us.
For sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So this would always, and just like anything, I mean, they can choose to adopt just like we could. So if Algonquin came forward with this and we said, no, we actually want to do this, we actually could change our ordinances to align. Nothing stops a town from aligning to a state ordinance or, because it is their land use ordinances.
Okay, so let me give a couple of examples. Bar Harbor has 5,300 residents. Camden, another coastal tourist town, 5,189 residents.
Good, they're in the mix.
So all I'm saying is, we might consider 5,000 instead of 6,000, because we're at 3,700.
36, 37.
Yeah, 36, 37.
Okay, so we've been there for a while. I don't see, you know, an explosion in population. That's all I'm saying, because there's another, and some of these towns are coastal towns, but they're also very, you know, hot tourist places. But Algonquin, potentially York, I don't know I haven't found York's population here.
They're around 12.
It's gonna be around 12, but
So
it's like
they were
Kennebunkport.
much larger.
So the downside would be that then the towns would, so if a town wanted to include this, nothing stops the town from including it.
Wanted to include, I'm sorry,
So,
wanted.
so for example, if we left it at, to Alan's point, so if we left it at 6,000 and Camden's came back and said, we're of, I don't know which one, if they were 5,000 or not, or 5,300, but if Camden came back and said, hey, okay, we're excluded, now we can make the choice of whether or not we want to take all of this or parts of it make sense for their density increase, you know, they can so choose. I think, you know, in regards to what we're facing, it's no different than, you know, Camden or anything, or Bar Harbor, anything that Alan just broke up. It's the same dynamic, that we believe the premise of this in areas where will just yield more market-based housing, which will inevitably, in those coastal towns, inevitably be second houses. So each town, so I think the downsize, I mean, the legislator can always go back and reduce the number if they choose, right? I'm not sure they'll put this in as worded, or, you know, they'll go through, or what they'll choose to do. This is just our recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, legislators from those towns can speak up and say, well, we want to be included, or we don't want to be included, so drop the number down to 5,000.
Yeah, Booth Bay is 3,100.
Yeah.
So there's another community which could get really hurt with this.
How do they get hurt? I don't see, what would be the damage?
No, I'm saying without our proposal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think
They
they're
would
as
get hurt.
vulnerable as we are to
Right.
totally changing their, so, okay. So let's leave it at 6, and let's leave it at 6
Okay.
would be my thought, yeah. Yeah.
Can I make a point? We were just doing some quick back of the envelope research here on the internet. There's between 80 and 105 under 6,000 coastal communities in Maine.
Say that again?
Between 80 and 105
Yeah.
under 6,000 population coastal communities in Maine. So,
Let me say something else about why coastal is important. Coastal are going to be some of our oldest communities. It was, you know, we were seafaring, folks came in. They're also on solid granite because of the area they are. It is very difficult to put in extra infrastructure. in coastal towns. One of the real limiting things in my mind is providing the sewer and the water and the infrastructure if we see a lot of explosion of building. So to me, this leaving coastal is an important piece, and it protects, I think, those that would be vulnerable to a real change in their quality of life.
So does any board, does any?
I think Robin's going to want to come.
Any, yes?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for doing this. Secondly, I think
Could you introduce yourself, Robin?
Robin Phillips, Kennebunkport.
Thank you.
When you spoke about towers of condos, now this is a question, this is where I get confused with this whole density thing. So you say 4 units, but can they be 4 towers? Like, what is the, I'm not getting the bottom line exactly out of this conversation, so.
Well, it certainly could be a 4-story. It's a low tower.
So you could have 4 low tower, so if you had 4 stories, say there's, how many units total?
4 on 5,000 square feet.
4 units, but, so that's just one condo.
No, a unit is a dwelling, so that'd be like 4 condos.
So that, you could have 20,
No, just 4.
4.
Just 4.
Yeah.
Well, you can have,
On 5,000 square
yeah,
feet.
you can have 4 structures, right? Because I'm confused now, too. You can
Well,
have.
4 floors.
So I
Oh,
think-
no, no,
I think we
let's-
just need
I need to
Galen to
just walk through this
define what a
sequentially.
structure
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
Define what
Thank
one
you.
structure is,
Yeah,
Galen, that would help.
Yes, so your definition of a dwelling unit, that's what we should be thinking about. A dwelling unit has its own cooking facilities, living facilities, sanitary facilities in a box, in a room.
In 4 walls.
Yep, 4 walls. So it can be a studio, it can be a 3-bedroom, it can be any of those things, as long as it meets that criteria.
And it could be a floor of a building.
It could be a floor of a building, it could be, each one has its own floor, it could be multiple structures on the same level. It can be all separate detached structures on the lot.
Or 2
That's
duplexes.
cottages. So those are all possible. The only thing I will add to it, and we did talk to the representative about this when she did come and talk to the Growth Planning Committee. It is 4 dwellings on a lot, but it does not include the affordable density bonus. That was in LD 2003. So you have to take that into consideration, that it can be more than 4 units on a 5,000 square foot lot
Plus an
If,
if they do affordable housing project.
so it's an affordable,
In the growth
100% affordable housing project. What is the bonus?
I believe it's,
Let's just say it could be 5 units. Let's just say it's.
2.5 times.
Is it
Two and
2.5
a-
times, so it'd be 10.
So 10 units.
yeah,
It could be 10 units
yes,
on a 5,000 square foot lot,
yes,
if they were all
they were
affordable,
all
if there was an affordable component to it.
yes. But they would still have to meet your setbacks, they would still meet
That-
your lot coverage requirements.
And would they have to, and the height requirement would be
14 feet above, and again, it depends on what zone, so 35 feet or 30 feet is what your current
But wasn't there something in the fix
Plus
that fell about
14.
zone. Up to
55?
55.
So it
But
could
that's-
only be up to 55 feet.
No, they can't for us.
They can't for us,
Okay.
because we
Okay.
are lower than that. But
So
it was for
we're
those
35.
areas
We're
where they
35.
have 3 stories already, that, for the 14
Yeah.
feet, it's gonna be over 55
But we're
feet.
35, and they could get a 14
14. So
14-foot
49.
bonus, so they could get to
49.
49.
Yes,
Right.
49.
So Galen, so just to go back and clarify, so for the 5,000 square foot lot, we could have 4 dwellings, meaning like 1 occupied single-family units, right? They have their kitchen and
Yep.
4 walls. Or we could have 1 unit that has 4 of them in.
Market
But we
value.
don't have, but we're not gonna have 1 unit that has 4 floors of like a condo in it, like 4 different people could live there, 4 different families, and
Yes, they
another.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait,
And then, no, well,
Say it
no.
again.
So just bear with me.
Yeah,
Take our 5,000 square foot lot
right.
and say, I'm gonna have 4 dwellings on it, right? So we already got there. Now, can each one of these dwellings be more than 1 family?
No.
Okay.
1 living unit.
Yeah, so that answers the question, like, they can't be, you're not gonna have 4 structures of condominiums. You're gonna
But-
have either 1 structure of 4 condominiums. or whatever else from the affordable allotment, or you're gonna have 4 separate structures.
Or two structures, two
Or
duplexes.
Or 2 duplexes, and then at some point, if you can get it on, you're gonna have an ADU.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
you could do,
Oh, wait a minute, I thought the
No, no.
ADUs are now included.
The ADU is
ADUs are
now included.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
So you
ADU
can't
is
have an
out.
So you could have
additional
3 in an ADU.
But you
Three.
could have an affordable housing project that is 3 structures, each 3 units. You could
So
have
let's,
that.
let's pause for a second.
Yep.
Because this is why it's confusing to people. So I just want to check in with Robin and see if she understands this, because the reason why they're saying it can be A or B or C or D is because it depends on the lot, the size of the lot, the configuration of the lot, because you still have to meet these other criteria. You have to meet your setbacks, you have to meet the height requirement. And so it really depends on all those, how many and what configuration you could make it. But basically, it is 4 dwelling units. Because at 5,000 square feet is not a lot of space, and because of our other requirements, it may be that these are all studios. Whereas if you had an acre, you might have 4 individual houses, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it has to meet all these other criteria, and that's why it's so different depending on where it is.
No. I,
They do
I
still
think-
honor shoreline zoning,
So,
they,
40,000 square feet.
so you can actually have 4 family units on 5,000 square feet.
Yes,
yes.
Possibly.
possibly.
If you
That's
meet
the
the setbacks
purpose of
and lot coverage.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, a 5,000 square foot lot, 20% is 1,000 square feet.
Yep.
That's all your structure. No, that's no additional garage space, like, that's it.
That's way
That's-
too many. That's just
It's
crazy.
tight.
Yeah, it's tight.
But, so,
Well, that's
so
probably-
Galen, you could own an acre.
Yep, 8 times, yep, yep.
You could own an acre and you could divide but let's say for math, 45,000 let's say 40,000 square feet in an
Yeah.
acre, right? You could divide that into 8, I'm doing my math correctly,
Yes.
8 lots, 8
Yes.
5,000 square foot lots, and each lot
Yes.
could have, simple math, 4 units on it. So an acre could end up becoming
Yes.
a lot of units.
32.
Yeah.
32.
You gotta ask how
Okay, I just-
physically possible that is.
Well,
What
you
would
would
that
trigger
look like?
subdivision if you did that,
Yeah,
if we, go into
Yeah.
that scenario.
Wow.
okay.
I thought it was gonna be 1 family on 5,000 square feet. That's what I thought.
No, it's
One
4
building.
families.
I mean, you
Apparently-
can do that, like,
I
there's,
know you can, but if this is, but they can actually have,
yes, they can have 4.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, but it also can be a single building with 4 floors.
Yeah.
Each one
They
being
could-
a
they could be
condo.
stacked.
So
They
it's
could be
not-
stacked.
It's not that
But-
ridiculous.
But to the point is, the intention of this was to help build, suppose, affordable or workforce housing. If that has been stripped out, the kind of the this is for that purpose, it's now, that's missing, it's for any purpose. You could see in a community like ours where someone would come in, buy a 5,000 square foot lot and put 4 $4 million condo units on top of each other. And that would be fine.
Yeah, and that's
And
where,
that defeats the purpose, I
Right.
think, of what they were attempting to do.
and that's in essence the genesis of this letter that we hope to send to the legislative.
Exactly. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan Evelyn. What provisions, I read through a lot of things on LD 29 about a month ago, and I don't know, I haven't read any of the fix-it stuff. However, what is the allowance or the requirements for parking?
You're gonna laugh at this one.
So, parking was addressed, with LD 2003 and LD 427. So, you're familiar with, LD 2003, that the affordable housing projects, you can only require, 1 space for every 3 units. And then for, in your growth area, what it changed for LD 427 was that you can only require 1 parking space per dwelling in your growth areas. So that's the,
So that would be 4 spots on the stacked building.
yes.
Correct.
Sounds to me like a lot
So,
of people are gonna be walking.
And I think, Alan, your question, I think that is why, that was presented to us last
Yeah, so
whatever,
that
last
was.
meeting, and
yeah.
why I asked about the ordinance change. It's a state requirement. Should we adopt it or not? That's why I've asked, and I think Galen and them are working on, could you go back and come back to the board at some point? And how many streets in the town is this impacting? Before we,
And that's a,
Go any further.
that's a good question.
Yeah, so the board is waiting to hear back from that
because it's a larger, it is a larger,
issue.
it needs to be thought out more comprehensively than I don't want to be out of compliance, but I also at least want a fuller comprehensive understanding of what the potential impact of this is down the road. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone out on Zoom with a hand raised?
We have one person, but not a hand raised.
Come
All
on
right.
up, Kate.
Can I just ask a clarifying question on the language at the bottom? Did you decide to add in a state-approved comp plan or no?
No.
No.
Okay.
Hi, Kate Bauerberg, Goose Rock Speech. And I have to say, I don't have enough history with the legislature here to know how the process will work and what may persuade people in our direction or dissuade them. I thought that was an interesting, first of all, I think the letter is fabulous, wonderful work. The question raised about the coastal town inclusion or limitation to coastal towns, I think is an interesting one. And, I mean, my initial reaction would be, until I heard all the numbers and realized most of the towns would fall under the 6,000 if we said anywhere. I still think there are not other towns in certain parts, particularly around lake areas, that they may not be quite as hugely upscale as the coastal towns have become, but they're still fairly second home, relatively expensive homes if you have a popular lake area. So I'm wondering whether not specifically like limiting it to the coastal towns, but putting in some language like particularly coastal towns, referring to the fact that those are ones that will face the most impact perhaps, might help. Otherwise I can see this setting up a us against them sort of type scenario. I'm very glad to hear finally that, because I have to admit I haven't read all of the legislative packages by any means, actually none of them. I'm mostly going on what I've learned from the meeting with Representative Gear when she was here. And I'm glad to see that there was, in fact, a very specific statement that this purpose of this is to develop affordable housing. I got the sense from her presentation that it was just to increase housing in Maine, hoping that that would be affordable. Certainly, if that is the goal, to increase affordable housing, which is certainly very much needed, even in our town for people who live here and work here, that certainly does not seem to be a solution. I did ask her at the time whether they had looked at other neighboring states. For example, Massachusetts with 40B, which I, as a longtime resident there, became in a comparable type community, became very familiar with. And you mentioned, Galen, something about a 10% affordable housing process that was already in existence but will get knocked out in essence by this legislation?
Yeah, we allocated 10% of our growth permits each
Hey,
year.
Galen,
you've
up to the
got to
mic.
speak at the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, we allocated 10% of our growth permits per year for affordable housing projects. So we kept them until December, and if they weren't used, then we reallocated them out to
Okay.
whoever else is on the list.
So I'm wondering if, I'd love to get back to the legislature and say, this does not make as much sense if your goal is to increase affordable housing, that we actually had a process here in this town that will be negated by this legislation, and that was working. We have gotten some affordable projects going in this town. So, oh my goodness,
Snow.
we just
Snow.
lost some snow.
On
Any event,
our part.
those are my few thoughts. I think that what you're doing is great, and if they can possibly get some relief. To me, as I listen to this, I kind of it's a little ironic. It seems to me that if this additional density is allowed in this town, we're going to kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs. People come here in large part because they love the kind of country, rural look of the town, the quietness of it, the relative, shall we say, it's certainly gotten more dense use of the beaches here. That's going to get so much denser. We're going to have so many problems there, obviously, as well as just in general, the whole look of the town is going to change. But
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
All
So
righty.
I think, we've heard a couple statements about, inclusion of other towns. I feel, this letter was put together as a representation from the Kennebunkport Select Board. I would leave it for other towns and their reps to make their own comments about inclusion or not. I feel uncomfortable speaking for them, especially, so I get, Kate's point and Alan's point, but this isn't a collective towns letter. This is a specific Kennebunkport, our situation.
And
I don't know how you feel.
I think if we're all in agreement with that, I have a first and a second on the memo as it stands. Are we ready to vote? And I'd ask all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. All righty, this ends our discussion on the LD 1829-2173 bills. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
I have a first and second, all in favor? We are adjourned.